Hello everyone, and welcome to my new channel where we teach English using the comprehensible input method. I'm Daryl, I'm 36 years old, and I'm from the UK. Now, if you don't know what the comprehensible input method is, to put it simply, it's learning a language through immersion and learning a language through hearing stories and engaging stories that we can understand. Now, you won't understand everything you hear, but you can understand the gist of what you hear. And using the comprehensible input method, you largely ignore trying to memorize all the words that you can or trying to study grammar rules. Through comprehensible input, eventually your brain just starts to naturally pick up the rules and the words through immersion and through hearing stories that you can understand mostly. For me personally, I have been studying Spanish. Now, I've been studying Spanish for around 6 years, but I think putting it into years is a really bad way to know how much you've been studying, because I could say I've been studying Spanish for 6 years, but if I only study half an hour every day, that is totally different to someone who has been studying Spanish for, let's say, 2 hours a day every day. I mean, the gap is just tremendous. So I have nearly exclusively been learning Spanish just by comprehensible input. At the beginning of my journey, maybe the first 2 or 3 years, I just started before the pandemic, and during that time and just through the pandemic, I was mainly getting some lessons. I went to some school in Norwich where you were getting taught grammar rules and just things that, to be perfectly honest, I didn't really understand in English. Like, if you ask an English person what the past participle is, or the subjunctive or something, a lot of people, a lot of English people won't know what that is, at least in my experience. So with my Spanish journey, I was doing, 1 hour a week. Maybe I'd miss it. I was just trying to figure out the language. I was getting told or taught in the traditional sense. And in the back of my head, I just knew that wasn't for me. I knew that I didn't want to learn the rules and the grammar from the start. It felt weird. It felt like, surely kids don't do that. A kid doesn't learn the rules of their language by studying the rules of their language. They learn the language just by getting the input from, the years and years of them growing up. And in the back of my head, I knew that surely that is a way to learn a language. Surely there must be a way. And eventually I stumbled on comprehensible input. I stumbled on a couple of YouTube videos. I think it's Stephen Krashen and Stephen Kauffman, I think. And also I stumbled upon Dreaming Spanish, which has been my number one source of comprehensible input for a while now. Now, there are some pros and cons to learning from the comprehensible input method. The pros is that it's easy. I have not written down a single bit of Spanish in 2 or 3 years, maybe tiny bits, but not really. I haven't studied any grammar properly. And I basically just watch videos all the time. I'm starting to read now, but I'm reading very simple books. I think it's easy to get given books that are too hard for you, and it's kind of tough to read. But yeah, and The cons of comprehensible input is that it can sometimes feel like you're not getting anywhere. It's pretty slow. You are kind of thrust into the language, and at the beginning you struggle to understand what's going on. I remember after 2 or 3 years actually of Spanish, but the kind of traditional way, filling out worksheets and trying to figure out when this word can be used in what tense, and then I picked up Dreaming Spanish, and I remember watching the beginner video because obviously I'm a beginner, and they had super beginner. I was like, I'm not super beginner. I've been doing Spanish for 2 or 3 years now, and I didn't understand a word, and it kind of changed something in my brain, which was like, wow, I've been trying to do it the kind of normal educational way, the old school way, as some people might say. And I now am watching a beginner video and I don't know basically anything in my head, at least. So I decided to scrap all that. I stopped using the Spanish teacher that I had, who's lovely, but I just knew that wasn't the way I was going to learn the language. And I focused on Dreaming Spanish, sort of. This is where I made mistakes in my early years of Dreaming Spanish, and it's one of the reasons why I want to start this channel, is because if I got told at the beginning of my Spanish journey, just watch the easiest videos you can find and just keep watching and put in the hours, you have to put in the hours, that eventually the language would start making sense. Now, what I did was I kind of took the comprehensible input way, and I was like, oh, I'll watch Narcos, I'll watch Pokemon, I'll watch, something else. And those videos and those series were, especially Narcos, was just way too hard. It basically wasn't comprehensible. Oh, I remember, and I watched Money Heist, or I forgot what it's called in Spanish. The La Casa de Papel, I think, or something. Can't remember. Anyway, so what I did at the beginning was I kind of just wanted to watch stuff that I wanted to watch, which is what you want to be doing in comprehensible input, but I think I just took it too far. I probably wasn't watching that much Dreaming Spanish, really, because I wanted to watch Narcos, I wanted to watch Money Heist, I wanted to watch things that I wanted to watch as an adult. And so I think my journey was very slow. It was only until about last year. So this is when I had a goal of being fluent by the time I was 35, and I clearly wasn't going to reach it. And I realized that I was probably doing things a little bit too mixed, a little bit too random, using Duolingo sometimes and using, I don't know, and I've got another app called like Speakly. My path was a little bit muddled. And then as soon as I started to focus just on learning from Dreaming Spanish, mostly because they've got super beginner, intermediate, and advanced videos, that my level of comprehension just started to shoot up. Now, clearly, I was also putting some more hours in. I started doing 1 hour every day rather than missing some. And then suddenly now I'm trying to do 4 hours every day because right now I'm not fluent. I'm about 600 to close to 700 hours into Dreaming Spanish. Now, some of that is not true Dreaming Spanish because I had to try and count the hours that I'd done before. Plus, as I've mentioned, I've watched stuff that might be too advanced, or I've watched shows that are too advanced. I didn't know whether to include that in my hours counted or not. But overall, I'm around 700 hours, probably more in terms of input. Whether it was comprehensible, probably not. However, I'm getting to a fluent stage, right? So in comprehensible input, there's also a thing of like not speaking too early, because if you start speaking too early, that's output. That's kind of putting yourself under pressure, and you just don't know the language well enough to like have a meaningful conversation, yeah, I could ask for a cup of tea or something like that, or say hello to someone, obviously. But you're still going to be muddled when it gets to talking. So I feel I've kind of got a goal of speaking when I reach 1,000 or maybe even 1,500 hours. Yes, I'm nervous about speaking. I think most people are when they learn a language, but obviously that is the goal for me in Spanish. But to bring it back to this channel, Thinking English, the reason why I started this channel is because I wish I had a channel like this when I was starting my language learning. Now, I'm pretty sure Dreaming Spanish was available. I just didn't really know about it. And the comprehensible input thing still didn't seem like a big chunk of the internet. I think it's getting more and more traction as the years go on. And I feel that there is a gap for English, for English comprehensible input. There are definitely some channels out there already. And I just feel that I can also add something different and add something extra um, to what's out there already. And yeah, that's it for now. Welcome to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.